Hello everyone, welcome to Diagnose It. Today we have this case, and this is basically an ECG based sport diagnostic case. And this is a 50-year-old male who presented with these chief complaints of this fever and with increased in sputum production. And there is a history of COPD, and with this characteristic ECG given here. And by looking at the ECG, you can clearly make the diagnosis of this as the multifocal atrial tachycardia. And we'll discuss how we can make the diagnosis of this MAT by looking at this ECG. But before that, let's discuss a bit about what is this multifocal atrial tachycardia. So, firstly, we'll follow that our same strategy that we follow in all our cases. Like we'll discuss firstly about this what is this multifocal atrial tachycardia, then why it occurs, then how it presents, and how to diagnose this case, and in the end how to treat it. So, firstly, let's start with our what. Let's discuss with the name first. As this is a tachycardia, so tachycardia means the heart rate of the patient will be more than 100 per minute. Okay. Next is this atrial, and this atrial means that pathology inside the atrium. Next is this multifocal. So what this multifocal means, that it basically means that there are multiple foci. There are multiple foci of electrical activity develops inside the atrium, and most commonly inside the right atrium. And these multiple foci then leads to the development of action potential, and that action potential is conducted via the AV nodes towards the ventricles. And this also excites the ventricles and leads to that the development of QRS complex and also a heartbeat. So these multiple foci producing the heartbeat or that electrical impulse leading to development of this tachycardia, which is irregularly irregular. This is called as this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now, before discussing why it occurs, there are some things like this disease is quite common after the age of 50 years, and also we can say it is quite common in not that common as an arrhythmia. But yeah, if we discuss why the age prevalence, this disease is common after the age of 50 years. This disease is not that common to be seen in the hospitals, but yeah, it is seen after the age of 50 years if we see why the age prevalence. So why this disease occurs, before that let's discuss the various risk factors for the development of this disease. So there are various risk factors, and the disease include firstly the respiratory disease, the respiratory system, and in the respiratory system the presence of COPD and that pulmonary artery hypertension. We can also consider it as a disease of cardiac causes, and cardiac causes also. And in cardiac causes, this pulmonary artery hypertension, that coronary artery disease, and this congestive heart failure. And in the electrolyte abnormalities, and electrolyte abnormality, firstly this hypokalemia and hypomagnesemia. This renal anomalies like this chronic renal failure, some drugs like this amino and theophylline, and this isoproterenol. These are the drugs, and also the diabetes mellitus is also a risk factor for development of this multifocal atrial tachycardia. So these are the main diseases why this the risk factors for the development of this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now let's come to why it occurs. So till now we have we have discussed there are this development of multiple foci that develops inside the right atrium that leads to the various electrical activity generating inside the atrium and conducting in the ventricles. So in why we'll discuss about why this foci develops and how the electrical activity is occurring. So for the why, there are basically three theories. One is the theory of re-entry, and the other is the theory of automaticity, basically the abnormal automaticity. Next one is the theory of triggered activity. So firstly, the theory of re-entry. As you know, this is a quite common theory for development of a lot of arrhythmias, and what happens in this theory of re-entry, that a re-entry circuit develops in which the impulse firstly travels from this initial point to this final point, and after that due to that refractory nature of the pathway to be that will conduct the impulse in the forward direction, the impulse get conducted backward toward that initial point via an abnormal pathway, and this abnormal pathway due to a perfectly timed beat may leads to the development of a re-entry circuit, and that is the main etiology for development of a lot of arrhythmias. But this theory is not that explanatory for this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Next one is, let's come to our next theory, that theory of this abnormal automaticity. So what happens with this theory of abnormal automaticity? Now let's discuss it via this case of this COPD that we have here. In COPD, what happens in this COPD? Due to this chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, this hypoxia develops and hypercarbia develops. And due to this hypoxia and hypercarbia, the adrenergic drive increases. And due to this adrenergic drive, excites the foci inside the right atrium and basically the atrium, and this excited foci then leads to the development of abnormal electrical activity and may leads to development of multifocal atrial tachycardia. So this is a case in case of COPD. Now in case of some cardiac diseases, in cardiac disease like CHF and coronary artery disease, what happens is there is a load over the ventricles, and due to the load over the ventricles, this right atrium basically increase in size, like that we call it right atrial enlargement, as well as this pressure inside the right atrium also increases. And this increase in size and increase in pressure in the right atrium, this leads to the abnormal increase in the electrical activity, basically increase the excitatory capability of that cardiac myocytes inside the right atrium. So this increase in the excitability leads to again development of that electrical activity and this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now in cases of this pulmonary artery hypertension, as you know, pulmonary artery hypertension also leads to this right atrial enlargement and this increase in the pressure inside the right atrium. So this also leads to this increased automaticity of the right atrial myocytes and development of this multiple foci, and again leads to development of this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now let's come to our last theory, this theory of triggered activity. And this theory also states a lot, also explains a lot about this multifocal atrial tachycardia. And according to this theory, there is a thing called after depolarization. And this after depolarization is a thing that causes the development of this multiple foci inside the right atrium. So what is this after depolarization? So due to that SA nodal activity, as we know, SA node is situated inside the right atrium, and due to that SA nodal activity, there is a change in the membrane potential inside that other cardiac myocytes. And that change in the membrane potential, sometimes in some abnormal cardiac myocytes, may lead to increase in the calcium overload, and calcium get overloaded inside the cells, and that overloaded calcium may sometimes leads to the development of this this after depolarization, and that after depolarization then triggers these abnormal cardiac myocytes for the formation of this abnormal action potential, and that action potential again leads to again conducted via that AV nodes and reaches inside the ventricles and activates the ventricles, and leads to development of this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now till now we have discussed our what and why. Now let's come to how the patient of this multifocal atrial tachycardia presents. So basically, this multifocal atrial tachycardia is itself asymptomatic, and there is no symptom by which this multifocal atrial tachycardia presents. But what happens is the patient presents with the etiologies of this multifocal atrial tachycardia, the symptoms due to those etiologies, like we have discussed the pulmonary causes and the cardiac causes and some electrolyte abnormalities. So patient usually presents with the other symptoms of that etiology, like in the cardiac causes, the patient may present with some kind of abnormal sensation of the heartbeat, like palpitation, or abnormal rhythm, or something the patient can feel abnormal in the heart, like chest pain also, in cases of CHF. And in the pulmonary causes, the patient can present with that breathlessness and some pulmonary complaints, chest pain also, but there is no specific symptom for this multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now let's come to the diagnosis of this case, and let's discuss more about this ECG here. The main modality for diagnosis of this case is an ECG, and it is usually diagnosed as an incidental finding during the checkup of a patient for any underlying disease. Now let's discuss about the ECG. By just clearly looking at this ECG, we can say it is an arrhythmia. So let's come to our rhythm strips first. Now let's see. As you can see, there is a P wave present. In every lead, before every QRS complex, there is a P wave present. Like here, there is a P wave. This is a P wave, and this is a P wave. This is a P wave. In this lead also there is a P wave, this P wave, P wave, this P wave. There is a P wave present, and after that P wave, this is conducted via that AV node, and the QRS complex is generated. And after the QRS complex, there is a T wave also. So this is an arrhythmia that follows the normal conducting pathway, and the normal conducting pathway is via that SA node, then via that AV node towards the ventricles via that normal conducting system of the ventricle. Now to check that the conducting system of ventricle is working, we can see the duration of QRS complex, and this QRS complex is also looking like a narrow QRS complex. Narrow QRS complex is basically that is less than 3 small boxes, and you can see here these QRS complexes are less than 3 small boxes, all the QRS complexes. Like let's start from here, this 1, 2 and this 3 small boxes. So all the QRS complexes, you can see these all are narrow QRS complexes. So we can say that the conducting system of ventricle is also normal. Okay, so till now we know that this conduction is occurring via the normal pathway, and the ventricular conducting system is normal as the QRS complex here is narrow. Now let's count the rate of the heart rate of this patient. So for the heart rate, as we can clearly see that RR interval here, RR interval here and RR interval here, these are variable. So there is a concept that how we calculate the heart rate of a patient if the RR interval is variable. So what we know that this is a big box of the ECG, and in the big box there are basically 5 small boxes, and in the 5 small boxes the duration of one small box is 0.04 second. So the duration of one large box is so 0.04 multiply 5, so 0.2 seconds. And to calculate the heart rate, what we need is we need to count the number of QRS complexes in the time duration of 60 seconds. So one big box is 0.2 seconds. So 10 big boxes are 2 seconds and 30 big boxes are 6 seconds. So there is a standard notation like to calculate the heart rate in 60 seconds, we need to count at least 30 boxes and then multiply that the number of QRS complexes in 30 boxes by 10. So I think you have understood till now why we are multiplying this by 10, because in 30 small boxes we are getting the number of QRS complexes in 6 seconds, and and what we need is the number of QRS complexes in 60 seconds. So we multiply this number of QRS complexes in 6 seconds by 10 to get that the number of QRS complexes in 60 seconds. So this is the way we calculate the heart rate in cases of this irregular RR interval. So now let's calculate the heart rate of this patient. So what we need is we need to calculate the number of the QRS complexes in 30 boxes. Now we start calculating from here. So from here to here, these are the 30 boxes in this in this ECG. So we'll count the number of QRS complexes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 18 QRS complexes in these 30 these boxes. So to calculate the heart rate, we just need to multiply it by 10. So we get 180 beats per minute. So this is a vague way to calculate the number of QRS complexes and to calculate the heart rate. So this is 180 is more than 100. So this is a tachycardia. Now let's try to make our diagnosis that why this is multifocal atrial tachycardia. And to say some ECG, there are some specific guidelines to say it as multifocal atrial tachycardia. So what are these guidelines? There should be more than 3 different morphology of P waves present, and there is the presence of some isoelectric line that is present between these P waves. So let's come to this strip. These arrows are given here. We can say that this P wave, this P wave, this P wave and this P wave. There are a lot of morphologies of P wave here. We have more than 3, even more than 4 or 5 different types of P waves here. And the other thing is the presence of this isoelectric line between these P waves. As you know, you can see between these P waves are originating like this, and then the QRS complex is generating, then this T wave, this merged with the P wave, and there is this isoelectric line like you can see here. And you can see clearly in this, there are a lot of isoelectric lines present between the two morphologies of P waves. Like this, you can see there is a isoelectric line present. And one is, these are the two criterias. One is this irregular intervals, this irregular PP interval, this irregular RP interval, and this irregular PR interval. As you can see, you can clearly make out that as the morphologies of P wave are different, like you can see this P wave here. And this P wave is conducted just to the QRS complex, and here the P wave is, and there is a more duration for the conduction of this P wave to this QRS complex, and this is variable in every lead. There is also this variable RR interval. By this we can clearly make the diagnosis of this multifocal atrial tachycardia, because there are more than 3 morphologies of P wave with the presence of this isoelectric line with that irregular heart rate. So this is a case of this multifocal atrial tachycardia. So till now we have made the diagnosis of this as the multifocal atrial tachycardia. Now let's come to the treatment part. The best treatment is this treatment of underlying disease. Like we can treat that COPD, we can control that COPD, we can control also that cardiac diseases, we can basically treat that this electrolyte abnormality, that hypokalemia and hypomagnesemia. But there is a problem. Like if we do not get any specific etiology, like there is no that cardiac or pulmonary disease, there is no electrolyte abnormality, then what we can do? Then at this place the drug of choice is beta blockers. Do you remember we have discussed about the theory of increased automaticity, and in increased automaticity due to the increase in adrenergic stimulation, and due to this increase in adrenergic stimulation, the multiple foci are developing inside the atria. So these beta blockers, this suppress this adrenergic stimulation and basically relieves this the symptoms, and relieves this multifocal atrial tachycardia. But we should be cautious about this use of beta blockers in cases of COPD and also the cardiac diseases. And like in cases of COPD, it can basically precipitate that bronchospasm, and in the cardiac diseases, cardiac decompensation can increase more. So we should firstly rule out the presence of the COPD and other cardiac diseases before the use of this beta blockers. But if after we have excluded this, the beta blockers are the drug of choice, and these beta blockers are also not needed for the life. These are also for the short-term therapy only. What if we have this COPD and cardiac causes, and we are not getting any relief after this treatment of this COPD and cardiac disease? After that, what is the treatment for the diseases? That known dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers, and these calcium channel blockers include that verapamil and diltiazem, and these are the drug of choice in cases of we are not getting any relief after the treatment of the COPD and cardiac diseases. And even after this all thing, nothing of this is working, then we can also go for that AV nodal ablation, and after the AV nodal ablation we basically needs that the insertion of that pacemaker, because AV node is ablated, and after the ablation of AV node, there is a situation like that of a heart block, complete heart block. And after this situation, this AV nodal ablation, we need this pacemaker insertion. So this is all about this multifocal atrial tachycardia, and I think you have completely understood that what is this ECG and what are the findings by which we made the diagnosis of this multifocal atrial tachycardia, and what are these treatment modalities for this. So this is all, and if you have any question regarding this, you can please DM me on my Instagram handle @diagnosit, or you can also post it in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. So thank you, and I'll also make a video about the basics of ECG in further sessions. So thank you.